The final week of the regular season is coming up in just a couple of days for the Cincinnati Bengals and the Pittsburgh Steelers. It is week 18. I cannot believe it already. We are in January. The Bengals at this time riding a 4-game win streak. And we are just going to talk about the game that they had just a few weeks ago, about at the start of December against the Steelers, where the Steelers were able to score 44 points on Cincinnati, and how the Bengals have just made such a dramatic turn since that game. You are watching Deep in the Stripes, the sickest Bengals podcast around, and I am Elise Jesse, your host.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. Deep in the Stripes with Elise Jesse.
From 31 yards, McPherson. And Cincinnati is heading to the Super Bowl. They did it. They beat Mahomes at home. Wow, Joe Burrow. No way.
The sickest Cincinnati Bengals podcast. It's gonna be sick.
All right, first of all, thank you for being here with me, because I know that you could be doing literally anything else with your time. So I appreciate you spending some time with me today to talk about the Bengals and the Steelers matchup coming up. Yes, the background behind me is very different. I am currently looking at the field. Paycor Stadium is where we are. We're going to go into the locker room in a little bit. But before that happens, let's talk about the current practice situation. If you do not follow Mike Petraglia on Twitter, you should, because he is a wonderful follow. Great person, great journalist. He is tweeting out from practice at where they are right now. Amarius Mims at practice in uniform, but not with his helmet. He's not going through drills, but Cody Ford is taking reps at right tackle. Orlando Brown Jr. taking individual reps at left tackle. Drew Sample in uniform, but not with his helmet. Sample and Mims are both observing practice. As I understand it, Chase Brown is at practice with his helmet. So that is really good news for the Cincinnati Bengals going into Pittsburgh on Saturday night. Isn't it crazy? The Cincinnati Bengals are playing in 5 straight road primetime games this season, which is record-breaking in the NFL. Wow, that is just wild. It's like a nod from the NFL. That's how I'm taking it. It's a nod from the NFL that tells the Cincinnati Bengals how entertaining they are to watch, because people clearly want to tune in and see this potent offense, of course, headed by Joe Burrow. What a game. What a game we have coming up, because the Cincinnati Bengals, their playoff hopes are still alive. They're on a 4-game win streak. Meanwhile, the Steelers, since beating Cincinnati right here in Paycor Stadium, they are 1-3. They're on a 3-game losing streak. Granted, okay, so they beat the Browns, but they did lose to the Eagles. Not a terrible loss. They lost to the Ravens, not a terrible loss, and to the Chiefs. All 3 of those teams are in the playoffs. Very good football team. So yeah, that's going to be a tall task for the Pittsburgh Steelers, in my opinion. I think that they are looking to get right on Saturday night. Obviously, it's in primetime, so everyone they know is watching. But the same can be said about the Cincinnati Bengals. They are also looking to keep their playoff hopes alive, and also at the same time kill 2 birds with 1 stone and exact some revenge on the Pittsburgh Steelers from when they beat them here in Cincinnati. Now, I do have to talk to you all about something, because, wow, I gave Zac Taylor credit, I know, on Monday for just I don't think I clarified it well enough. And listen, I understand how y'all were raging in the comments on Monday. I understand it. I was raised by Bengals fans, so I totally get it. And I respect your passion. I'm totally cool with y'all raging when you feel like you want to rage, okay? I think I didn't clarify myself well enough in that moment. For me, I was trying to give credit to Zac Taylor for the fact that the team did not quit. They were 4-8. And they did not quit. They didn't pack it in. They didn't start booking their flights. That's what I'm giving him credit for. Yes, there are many questions that surround Zac Taylor, his play calling, his situational awareness. I agree with all of that. But I think there's a lot to be said for this team not quitting. And I also have to give a big nod to Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase for the team not giving up as well, because from the players that I've talked to, the players have been telling me that this has been the most transformative season for Joe Burrow as far as being a vocal leader. He spoke about that earlier on in the season about how he wanted to be more of a vocal leader, and he has been doing that. And I think that his voice has made a big difference in this team, a team that where we were considering this season lost at one point, and now their games matter. Their games have mattered the last few weeks as far as playoff contention is considered. So the fact that Joe Burrow is speaking up more, I think that does so much for this team. So yes, the Bengals do have a gem in Burrow, and obviously the last game against the Steelers on December 1st, that was not a great game for Joe Burrow. He threw a pick. He lost 2 fumbles. He was 28 of 38, 309 yards, threw 3 touchdowns, though, but those 2 lost fumbles were a big deal. So ball security, I think, is going to be a really, really big deal in this game on Saturday night. Turnovers. Let's talk about the Cincinnati defense for a second, because I swear they look, and I cannot wait to ask some of the defending some of the defense in the locker room in a few minutes, what has been the biggest change for them? I'm curious to talk to them about that, because, you know, so many games in this season, and, you know, they've played 10 games, which came down to 1 score. They're only 3-7 in those games. I mean, so many of those games have not gone the Bengals' way. And the majority of those losses have been put on Cincinnati's defense. And the last 4 games, I feel like their defense is playing more cohesive, and they look like they're having fun. They look like they're flying around. They look like they know what's expected of them and where to be. And that's just such a major change. It literally looks like they took a very harsh pivot in the opposite direction of where they were trending for the majority of the season. In their 4-game win streak, they have 12 takeaways. That's incredible. What now? 6 of those came against the Tennessee Titans. So Levis and Rudolph combined for 4 interceptions. Pollard and Levis both lost fumbles in that game. But Cincinnati's defense has been playing different, and I have heard the rumblings about how Lou Anarumo has simplified this defense, simplified those calls, which is a huge change from Lou Anarumo, because he likes to use a lot of those disguises. He likes to make it complicated for the opposing offense, but it can also be complicated for the players who are playing in his system, especially new or younger ones. So the fact that he made that change is huge. And I think that the way that they're playing now is a reflection of that change. And I will find out more and bring that to you when I get a chance to actually talk to the guys inside the locker room in a few minutes. But yeah, I think it's going to have to be another big game for the defense in Pittsburgh on Saturday night. It's going to be freezing. You're going to see a million of those terrible towels waving around. It's not going to be a fun environment for the Cincinnati Bengals, but they are going to have to overcome that if they do want to at least enjoy the next day on Sunday and watch the Jets and watch the other games that have to play out in order for the Cincinnati Bengals to get into the playoffs. Obviously, the Broncos need to lose, but the Chiefs are going to play a lot of their backups, so we'll see. But even having that chance to enjoy Sunday's games and hopefully watch their chances of making it into the playoffs rise, I think that it's just incredible. It's incredible to me because this team was just 4-8 and their season was considered lost. Like Joe Burrow's career was considered to be wasted in 2024. And the way that they have totally flipped that is incredible. It's also bizarre. Momentum is on their side. I would have liked to see some of that momentum earlier on in the season, but hey, I'll take it at this point too. At least they are playing meaningful games in December. But I think we should expect a lot more than that. Meaningful games in December is nice, but you want to see the Bengals in a position where they know they're already in the playoffs. they're just playing for seeding, or they're playing for home field advantage. Like, you don't want to see them trying to fight and claw and rely on other teams to get into the playoffs. Like, you just don't want to see that, especially when Joe Burrow is having a Pro Bowl year. By the way, he was voted into the Pro Bowl along with Jamar Chase, as expected, Trey Hendrickson, as expected. Chase Brown was a third alternate for the Pro Bowl, and then Orlando Brown Jr. was a fourth alternate for the Pro Bowl. So kudos to them. I think that's just a nod. I mean, people obviously recognize the talent that these guys possess. It's so weird. It's such a weird thought about the Bengals going into Steelers country and having to get a win and having all the pressure on them. And also, they got embarrassed at home a few weeks ago. December 1st, they were embarrassed by the Steelers. We talked about Russell Wilson having one of his best games of his career. He was 29 of 38, 414 yards. He threw 3 touchdowns. I mean, he had one of his best games of his career. And the Cincinnati Bengals were just talking about how their defense was talking about how they were crediting the quick game. That's not going to work on Saturday night. The Bengals have to come up with something better. The Bengals have to come out faster. The Bengals cannot come out sluggish, especially their defense. Their defense has done a total 180 since that game, but the defense does have to come out with their hair on fire and get ahead quickly and not get behind the sticks against the Pittsburgh Steelers, because they will absolutely make you pay. I think they had Joey Porter essentially trailing T. Higgins the majority of that game. They allocated a lot of their resources to Jamar Chase, as pretty much every single team does. But you can't go in there expecting the Pittsburgh Steelers to give the Cincinnati Bengals offense the same exact defensive looks. Like, you cannot expect that. They're going to try to keep the Cincinnati Bengals on their toes. The Pittsburgh Steelers still have more to play for. If the Ravens lose to the Browns, and the Steelers could win the division. So that game happening right before the Cincinnati Bengals game on Saturday night. So it will be, there's a lot up in the air. There is a lot of pressure for the players, for the coaching staff going into this game. They're not just trying to save their season. They're trying to finish with a winning record for the 4th straight year. And that's only happened one other time, which was under the Marvin Lewis era with Andy Dalton and AJ Green. So being able to do that for the second time in franchise history, I think would say a lot about this team. So it's not only a winning record. It's not only about saving their season. It's not only about, turning the page from an abysmal season from the Cincinnati Bengals from the start. It's also having the chance to make it into the postseason. This is what these players work so hard for. This is what they work all off season for. They're working out with different trainers. They're working out with different guys from other teams. They are treating their bodies with as much care as anybody. They are trying to make sure that their bodies are in the tip-top shape for the season, because they want to be playing in the playoffs. They have monetary incentives to be playing in the playoffs. So those things matter to them. They don't want to be, I've made a few jokes this season about them going to Cancun early. They don't want to be going to Cancun early. They don't. They want to be playing football late into January and into February. So we will see. There's a lot of ifs. They're relying on other teams to be able to do their jobs in order to allow the Cincinnati Bengals to squeak in. I don't love this position for the Bengals, but I do love this position more than them being mathematically eliminated. I will say that. I don't know if you feel the same way. Some people are really focused on the draft order and potentially picking higher in the draft, and they don't see this win streak as something that is helping the Cincinnati Bengals in the future. You let me know what you think about that. I would love to know from the viewers, like, whether or not you guys are enjoying this playoff run, or not playoff run, but enjoying this late season surge, I guess I should say, or if you are more concerned with draft picks in April in 2025. Let me know what you think. And we'll be talking more, I guess, on Sunday or Monday, one of the two, because you know how we're going to recap the game. We're going to have to recap the Steelers Bengals game. it'll be a huge one. They know that. You don't have to tell them that. You don't have to tell the coaching staff that. Ball security, huge. Takeaways by Cincinnati's defense is going to be huge. And another game of big plays from their stars. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Chase Brown, hopefully being healthy enough to play like he has been all season, playing as explosive as he has all season. That will be a big, big deal going into Saturday. But I've got to go. I've got to head into the locker room and actually ask these guys my list of questions that I have for them. But enjoy the game. And I will see you after the game. We'll recap it. If you have like any questions that you want me to talk about or any topics that you want me to talk about, just leave them down below in the comments. Please subscribe, ring the bell. That way you can get notifications when our new videos go up. I'll see you later.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast Deep in the Stripes with Elise Jesse on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.